algorithm. Hello and welcome to my presentation about eco-anxiety, the fear of climate change and its consequences. My name is Paolo Reile. I studied psychotherapy sciences at the SFU, Sigmund-Freud-PrivateUniversity in Vienna. I'm a psychotherapist, a social worker and a counselor. I'm actually writing a doctoral thesis about the letters between Sigmund Freud and Alfred Adler. And since November 2019, I'm working here at the Sigmund-Freud-PrivateUniversity in the Institute of Psychodynamical and Ethnological Catastrophe Research. In the beginning of November, Professor Bernd Rieken, head of the department, and I started a new project about eco-anxiety. What we planned, a lot, and what we already did until now is less. The project will run about a year. At the end, we'll publish a book. It contains a theoretical part with ethnological and psychotherapeutical views on anxiety and fear, a physical and psychological introduction in climate change, and it contains 3 empirical parts. The first part is a questionnaire. I created an online version and a PDF. The PDF is for the psychotherapeutical ambulance of this university, and we have already over 150 answered questionnaires. Here you can see the PDF. It contains some questions to the climate change itself, like is it real, or do they think it's a fake, or do they don't know it? Like questions how often they see it or hear it in the news or in other media. Then there are questions about anxieties, fears and climate change, like if they worry that climate change affects them or globally the world, if they already went through nature catastrophes. And then there are questions about anxieties and fears, like if they had anxieties in their childhood, or if the anxieties or fears affect them in everyday life. And the last part are demographic questions, like the age or the life situation. The second part are interviews. I plan to do 12 to 15 interviews with experts, with laymen, with people from urban areas or rural areas, younger people, older people, and at least one prepper if it's possible. If you don't know what a prepper is, I'll come back to it later. So since the project runs until 6 weeks, it wasn't enough time for interviews until now, maybe in January or February. And the third part, which I present now, is a discourse analysis of Facebook groups, not Facebook sites or pages, but groups. There are several hundred of Facebook groups about climate change and topics surrounding it. So to analyze Facebook groups in discourse analysis, I have to create a corpus with a limited number of posts. So I pre-selected the groups using some criteria, like different sizes. Some groups has only 5 to 10 users. Some groups has over 25,000 users. The one is more intimate. The others are more like mass mailer. I was looking for different types of postings in these groups, shared links, personal messages, comments, and so on. I was looking for groups in different languages, English, of course, and German, and different countries, groups from Australia or United States, Great Britain, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. I was looking for active groups. For example, there is a climate anxiety support group. There is no post since July 2019, so I'm looking for groups where the users actually posts. And I was looking for groups in every main topic, like preppers, again this word, support groups, climate change deniers or skeptics, undecided people who want to know if the climate change is real and how it affects us, and activists. So I joined 41 groups, open groups, closed and private groups. And what I've learned is that the group name doesn't say anything about the group content. In a group called Klimawandel, Fakten statt Fiktion, in English it's climate change, facts instead of fiction, the administrator shared a link to a far-right news page with an article about a band called Silbermond. They wrote a song about climate protection, and the admin called them an art whore, who just reproduce greenwashed propaganda. I personally understand facts differently. So, in our research, there are 41 groups with 1 to 15 posts per day, depending on the group size and the members. So that's 200 to 500 posts per day. Equals 6 to 15,000 posts per month and 72 to 180,000 posts per year. And there is no Analyze app which can analyze Facebook groups without admin permissions. Facebook pages, yes, but no groups. So this amount of posts are too much for a discourse analysis, so I had to define a time frame. It's 2019, from January to December. And until now, I analyzed 2 groups, preppers and eco-anxiety support groups. In the next weeks, I'll write about deniers and activists. But now, what is eco-anxiety? There are different terms: eco-anxiety, climate anxiety, climate change angst, the fear of climate change and its consequences. The main difference between anxiety and fear is that fear is about concrete objects or scenarios, while anxiety is broadly focused towards a diffuse threat or the future. Concrete fears can be floodings or hurricanes, starving to food shortage, ecological collapses, mass extinct, and so on. And why is it eco-anxiety, but fear of climate change and the consequences? Because eco-anxiety is about the future. They don't know what's coming. They know the climate change is a very bad thing, but it will affect us and no one knows how. But the fear of climate change and the consequences are the fear of concrete things, like I said, floodings, hurricanes, and so on. Now you can see a video. What is eco-anxiety? An actress talks about her eco-anxiety and how she deals with it.
Panic, sadness, fear, terror. Hello, my name is Laura Lex. I'm a comedian and writer and actress, and I also suffer from eco-anxiety. I first developed an obsession with climate change and plastic and the environment because I was ready to start trying for a baby and I wasn't sure suddenly that creating a life was a kind thing to do, even though I knew I would take care of them as best I could and be, the best mum I know how to be. Looking at somebody drinking once out of something plastic and then throwing it in the bin, knowing that that plastic will survive forever, and to them that being completely normal, that made me feel crazy. To just wash my hair required a plastic bottle of shampoo, and I knew that I had 2 of those bottles, and my neighbours had 2, and everyone in my building had 2, and everyone on my street had 2, and that image of all that plastic multiplying and multiplying, there was just a slow dawning that I couldn't remember the last time I hadn't been thinking about this, and the only respite I got was being asleep or being on stage. It took me a really long time to open up to people about what was going on. I didn't even really tell my husband because it felt mad. And I slowly started all this stuff tumbling out of my mouth of this and that and this fact and this statistic and I can't do this anymore and this and it's all mad and it's all crazy and I'm the only one that blah, 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 blah. One of the difficult things with eco-anxiety is that all of the things you're worried about, you're not wrong. And then the next people I started opening up to started to bring in the helpful side of the argument and say, well, you are not the only person worrying about this. There are a million meetings a day that people with more weight and more knowledge than you sit down and discuss these and start putting plans into action. So why are you sitting in a flat in Brighton feeling like it is all your responsibility? And that kind of went, oh yeah, okay, I'm not on my own. I can't and won't give anybody else advice on what to do, but for me, as soon as I opened my mouth and let this world of terror out of my head, my life got better, and that for me is the thing that I will forever be grateful for, that I started talking.
As you could saw in the video, many people don't talk about their anxieties and fears. But it can be very helpful to open up, especially when the fears grows and affects you in everyday life. Some studies implies that there are gender differences. You all know the fight and flight reaction, maybe fight, flight and fright reaction. Fright stands for freeze. And some of you may know tend and befriend. Some studies implies that fight and flight and fright reactions are more connected to male persons and tend and befriend to female persons. Tend and befriend means that the persons are looking for some secure in groups. So I analyzed the gender difference in Facebook groups. In prepper groups, there are 60 male and 50 female writers in a 3-week time period in November. In the same period in support group, there are 33 male writers and 18 female writers. But about the anxiety, in the prepper group, both male and female are writing about their anxieties. They're equal. And in support groups, the most comments and posts about anxieties are from female writers. Men mainly share links to news page. They try to help with positive news to calming other persons, while the women are more empathic and supportive. Many members in these groups says that the group is very helpful, maybe due to this combination. When anxiety grows and you don't believe in changing anything or you feel powerless, you may become depressive. On the other hand, if you believe in your power to change something, you may become aggressive or at least active. Some people become vegan, avoid plastics, or try to activate other people. Some demonstrate. You all know Fridays for Future. Some become member of Extinction Rebellion. They demonstrate too, but they are more aggressive. They occupy roads, block traffic or airports, and try to get attention, cost whatever it may. And some of them have just these fantasies. If they don't know what's meant, this is the Titan Thanos of the movie Avengers Infinity War. He got 6 Infinity Stones and snapped with his fingers, and suddenly 50% of the whole population is just wiped out, disintegrated. Okay, let's come to the preppers. What or who are preppers? Preppers comes from to prepare or be prepared. Preppers believe in apocalyptic scenarios. Benjamin Biggs Koppel wrote, "It won't be one thing. There will near simultaneous financial crashes, breakdowns in water and food security, supply chains will fall apart, and more severe weather events causing infrastructure failure and migration. War and civil unrest will become more commonplace as it all falls apart until there is no organized mainstream society left. Then it's every group for themselves, trying to live off the scraps of civilization and whatever increasingly scarce natural resources can be obtained." Do they think we, the humans, will survive? No. One person asked in the prepper group, what percentage of the human race will not survive to 2050? The most people says that 50% of the human race will be extinct. The second most percentage is 80%, and the third place are 99.9%. Just 4 people believe that only 20% of the humans die. Interesting is that no one believes that 0% die. What can preppers do? How can they survive this? Preppers and society, it's a difficult relationship. Preppers don't trust in politics or social infrastructure. It's like Thomas Hobbes, the philosopher, who said it's a war of all against all. They prepare for the worst case scenario. That means they are buying a farm far away from the next city and adapted to live independently if they have to. Far away from the next city because if everything broke down and the infrastructure is gone, the people will rob and kill others to get food. So they want to live far away from the city so that no one from the city can go to them. They storage water, food, medics, power. They are farming to produce their own food. They use solar cells or other power supplies. But what's with money? Bruce Morgan Williams wrote, "Many of us are aware of what's coming, but are still stuck, to some degree, in jobs, places, commitments, and obligations that prevent us from prepping in earnest. There is a tension and a trade-off between building up cash and disentangling from civilization. It is very difficult to do both at the same time. Many factors come into play: jobs, personal finances, real estate market, time until crop failures, time until grid failures, time until social breakdown. It's a very personal decision. I spent the last year convincing myself I was done with the rat race. It was time to sell the suburb and buy the homestead. And I breathed a sigh of relief that I had a clear purpose. And I started planning accordingly, and, of course, then I got an unsolicited job offer, making great money, commuting into an office in a large city. I try to get away, but they keep dragging me back. I'm struggling with the decision. So I'm wondering what thoughts my friends here might have on the subject, when to bail out. When do you have enough? And how do you know when the hour is getting late in your own decision-making algorithms? Notes of empathy also appreciated." There you can see it's difficult for preppers to leave society. It's a difficult relationship. It's also a difficult relationship between preppers and anxiety, because they don't believe in stopping or fighting climate change. They are sure the end of the world is coming, but they have hope. We accept that climate change is real. We accept that climate change is the most likely end of the world. We accept that is imminent, not by 2100. We will retain the will to survive. We will not grieve or lose hope. We will prepare for what we know is coming. It might be futile in the end, but we will at least be in a position to judge when the end is near. We have the power. It is highly likely that we will be among the last living humans on the planet, possibly the founders of the new worlds, if one is even possible. But some have still doubts and strong feelings of anxiety. Therefore, one member posted this solution path. 1. Write down the things you fear the most. 2. Prioritize your fears. 3. Start to look for solutions for your top fears. And 4. Write down the first step or measure that you can do to get closer to your solutions. So they don't really work on their fears. They try to avoid them. It's okay. I mean, if I don't see any spider and I have arachnophobia, it's okay. But the fear is still here. And the worst case is that I always ask, did I prepare enough? Can I do more? Is it okay? When the world end is coming, am I prepared? Focusing on preparing can increase the fear. So let us now come to support groups. There are a few climate anxiety support groups. Most of the groups in Facebook have only 2 to 4 members. There are one group which has 856 members. Not every group is active. For example, another group, also called Climate Anxiety Support Group, has 51 members, but no posts since July 2019. And there is only one group, Klimaangst, Austausch und Unterstützung, Climate Anxiety, Exchange and Support. It has 10 members. So, why do people join support groups? Every day, in mass media, they hear and see bad news. They are talking about catastrophes, extreme weather events, scientists talking about the closing of time frame and so on. That can be very, very frightening, especially when you have children and worrying for the future. Many of the persons in these groups are writing about their children, like you saw in the video before. And if they are here and they are worrying for their future, they are more vulnerable for bad news about climate change and its consequences. So the YouTuber Catherine Kellogg started an action, Good News Friday, and so do the support groups. Angel Carl wrote, "Can people send me some good news? I had a sad day in my environmental ethics class about all these issues. Just want to hear something good." There are 3 types of posts. The first one are positive news, mostly shared links to news pages of different things with positive news, like India just cancelled 14 huge coal-fired power stations as solar energy prices hit record low. So the people read this positive news. It's an opposite to what they hear in mass media every day, and see, okay, there is someone. They are doing positive things to protect climate. The second type of posts are anxiety posts, mostly from new members. For example, Abby Parker wrote, "My climate anxiety is really high today. I'm having trouble getting work done. I'm 26 years old. Will the rest of my life being an apocalyptic hellscape?" And the third type of posts are the supportive comments to anxiety posts. Like here wrote Carrie Taylor Schreck, "Live your best life now. The only moment for sure is this one. Make every minute count. We are in the throes of change. Nothing is certain, but you are here now, and today you can eat and breathe and drink water and go to work and love with all your heart. Don't waste one precious second. Sending energetic support. The main messages in that group are: you are not alone. Others are afraid too. Others are fighting too. It seems hopeless, but look at this good news. What we, the humans, have achieved. We have to look at each other, because if we were broken, we cannot fix the planet. And it's okay to feel depressed. Talk to us. We will help you. We are here. It's okay to feel angry, but use the anger. Be active. Do something to protect the climate. The last two parts of my presentation are ethnological and psychotherapeutical views. There are a lot of cultural narratives of an end of the world, like Ragnarök in the north or the apocalypse in the Christ culture. So when we hear about floodings, hurricanes, heat waves, starving, etc., we automatically think at, is this the end of the world? Is this the apocalypse? Religion helps dealing with these existential anxieties. But in the last centuries, science is replacing religion. We believe in science can eliminate the biggest threats. But now, scientists are talking about the end of the world. They say they can't eliminate this big threat. So now, who can give us hope now? The last part is about Alfred Adler, the founder of the individual psychology, and Irvin Yalom, the founder of the existential psychotherapy. Yalom says there are 4 existential topics. One of them is the fear, the existential anxiety, the fear of death. Yalom says that anxiety wants to become fear because you can handle fear much better than anxiety. Fear of an object like a spider, you can avoid it. You can avoid spiders. But he also says it's not the right way. We should talk about death and the fear of death and about traumatic events. Adler, on the other hand, says due to massive feelings of inferiority, people overcompensate and are looking for a strong feeling of power or the ultimate security. On the other hand, Adler wrote that humans are developing a community feeling that ensures the survival of the human species. Adler's morality in one sentence: the feeling of inferiority should be compensated by the community feeling of the parents and results in a self-confident person whose community feelings ensures the survival of the next generation and the human species. So the conflicts between being on the farm and living in the community is nothing less than the conflict between the fear of death and its overcompensation in striving for ultimate security and participation in society, including helping others with fears. So this is the end of the presentation. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask or write me a letter or an email.